Hi, I'm the Tengwar teacher. If you'll join us tonight for the Middle Earth Languages class, we're going to be talking about ancient Telerin. So grab a notepad and a pen. I'll see you in a few minutes. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. Nice to have you here this evening. And class is almost in session. So how's everybody doing? Hope you're having a wonderful day. Hey, yep, thank you. Thank you for being here. And I hope that you guys are looking forward to learning something. And hopefully we can learn something. I always like to try to bring some things out that maybe you guys have never heard, give you some insights as to some Elvish facts and things like that. Just whatever comes out. So I have prepared some stuff for us this evening, and we're going to be talking about ancient Telerin. So again, guys, welcome. So let's see if we can get our iPad out here. Hopefully it works. It's always nice. There we go. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, I'd like to say what's going on to the people in the chat. Susan, it's nice to have you back. Dancer, nice to have you here. I see there's some other people, but they haven't spoken up in the chat yet. So if you want to, go ahead and say hey. But welcome. Most welcome. Kel, thank you. I always appreciate that. If you have a nickname that you prefer, I always recommend that. Kel, it's very nice to meet you, and thank you for being here again. All right, so Carmen, thank you for being here. So guys, I thought I would do a little bit different approach this week. The last two sessions that we had, we sort of talked a little bit about the history and the ancestry of the elves. And then we talked about the languages and gave some examples of those. I thought I would give a little bit different perspective tonight. We're going to talk about ancient Telerin, but we're going to talk about it a little bit from the side of Tolkien, from the creator's standpoint. And I think you'll find that a little bit interesting. You'll still get to see Elvish. You'll still get to see a progression and get to learn something new. But I think you'll find it interesting to see a different side of the language that maybe you haven't ever seen before. So let me pull up my slides real quick. We're going to look at the tree. So if you recall, in the last two sessions, we went over primitive Elvish in the beginning. And then after that session last week, we dove straight into ancient Quenya. And we kind of went ahead and segued into Quenya and the Vanyarin area. And we talked about that for a little while. Now tonight, we will be talking about ancient Telerin. And then that will branch off into Telerin. And then eventually Old Sindarin. And then we'll see Sindarin and North Sindarin. So this is sort of like the tree that it follows up under. Now again, like I said, we're not going to just look at examples under this. I want you to see something that's a little bit unique. And from a linguistic standpoint, and somebody who has already studied this for years, you may have already seen this, but you may not have if you're new to this. And a lot of the people that follow my channel, follow my teachings and stuff, are kind of new to Elvish and Tolkien languages altogether. So they may never have heard any of this. So I thought it'd be cool to show. So let me get that slide pulled up. Okay. All right. So when we talk about ancient Telerin, I want you to think about this as it was conceptualized by Tolkien. You have to realize that as he worked on these language sets, they were concepts that he came up with over the course of his life. And over time, they changed. He modified them over the course of time. these concepts change from time to time, and that's it's kind of funny because we call it like ancient, the regular Telerin, middle Telerin, and early. But if you'll notice the years beside it, the latest one that we have sort of an update on is from 1950 to 1973, which is the year of his passing. And then Telerin was from 1950 to also to 1973. So that means the latest changes were from that time period. Now for Middle Telerin, the last changes that we have were from 1930 to 1950. Now this is our time, not Middle Earth. Just wanted to clarify that. This is real Earth time for Tolkien, right? Now the early Telerin was from 1910 to 1930. So early, meaning this is the earliest iteration that he created. So I want to show you some examples from each of these, but I want you to sort of see it through the lens of the creator and how it changed over time. Some of it will be kind of comical, some of it will be fun, and I hope that you enjoy it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about Telperion. And it's a very popular name of the tree, one of the two trees. And we're going to write that out. That'll be sort of our little exercise that we're going to do. You see it right there. It's written up there. But we're going to write it out together. So this is Quenya, and the name of the Telperion. So we're going to start off by writing the consonant T, like this. And then we'll do the E on top of that, and an L. Then we'll do a consonant P. Then we'll do a vowel E on top of that. Then we'll write the Roman R like this. Then we'll do a short telco carrier with an O on top. I think I skipped the I. Yeah, there's an I, sorry. The I over the R. And then there's the N to finish. So you have T-E. Now this is Quenya, so it's written sort of in reverse for what most people are used to seeing me write in, because Quenya writes sort of down, up, and then go over to the next letter, and then down, up, go over to the next letter, down, up. So we have the T-E, L, P, E up on top, R, then I on top, then the O stands on its own on a short carrier, and then you finish out with the N. Let me get a sip of water. Yep, this is a very interesting approach, and I think you'll like it. So what we're about to do is look at Telperion and the source that Tolkien took and the route he took from going backwards from the latest to where we get silver. So we're going to talk about silver tonight, right? All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Let me clear this off, because if I don't, it'll be in the way of the slides, or yeah, it won't look right. So let me clear that off. Okay, next slide. All right, so here we go. Now we know Telperion, but a cognate of the Quenya word Telperion, the usage for silver is telepe. That's the ancient Telerin. That's the origin, right? Now notice Tolkien's time frame here, 1950 to 1973. So this is the sort of the one of the latter things that he finalized, right? That this is the source. It was ancient Telerin. Obviously it existed before that, but we're talking about ancient Telerin tonight. But I wanted to just say that this is a derivative of the same word from back in Quenya and the naming of the two trees where the telpe comes from, right? That's where silver comes from. So, all right, let's keep going. Now we're going to be, even though this is, it's kind of a weird progression, because we're actually going back in real Earth time to Tolkien's work, but we're going sort of forward in the Middle Earth time. It's interesting. So let's keep going. You'll see. So Telerin, he worked on this in the latter stages of his life also. We can see here that telpe is a noun for silver. And here's an example also in Telerin is an adjective. Telperin means like silver in hue or worth. So very reminiscent of Telperion, right? And that's where obviously the tree, it has its name and the origins, and then as it's passed on in tradition to ancient Telerin. But you notice, watch the years. Keep watching the years for Tolkien. Okay, it's going to get funny in a second. I promise. All right, so Middle Telerin. This is the 1930s to 1950s. Not a big change. It's actually the same. Telpe means silver. Now, early Telerin. This is a change here. Originally, it was in 1910 to 1930, the early Telerin usage for the word silver was actually Kelpe. Celpe. I hope I'm saying that right. It's either Kelpe. I wouldn't think Selpe. I think Kelpe, right? Yeah, for sure, yeah. Anyway, that just sounded crazy when I said it. Kelpe. All right, so now here's a little bit of a funny part. In the primitive Elvish, back then, the word that we know now for silver actually meant butter. Butter. Right. So it actually meant butter. Now later on, Tolkien discarded this and made it silver. So, yeah. All right, so are you ready? Now just imagine in your mind a tree full of butter. Right? I've had this image in my head all day because I couldn't get it out, because all I could think about was Telperion being a butter tree. So you're welcome. Hope you enjoyed that. That's the lesson, everybody. Bye. Just kidding. Okay, let's keep going. That's a little bit of a funny, right? But if Tolkien never would have changed it, the word for Telpe was originally butter. So we're glad it's silver, and we're glad that Telperion is not a butter tree. All right, so let's keep going. This next example, we're going to go back and look at the word for white. It's an adjective like the color white. It is NIMBY, and this is ancient Telerin. Just keep in mind with the Tolkien years that are with these. And we're going to walk through this again. This one is not as funny, unfortunately. I wish I had another butter example. That was great. But it is reminiscent, and you'll recognize some of these names. So let's keep going. So originally it was NIMBY. In Sindarin, it actually skips on to Sindarin, and this is sort of our segue into the Sindarin area. Okay, so Sindarin for white, it goes from NIMBY to Nim. Now, most of you probably recognize this location name. It means white horn. It's a mountain, Nimras, right? It's a Sindarin name for location. All right, now we're going to sort of segue into the Old Sindarin, and we're going to keep looking at that word. Oh, that's actually it. We have a new word, but I wanted to show you another one that you'd recognize. Most of us know what limbus bread is. This is the origin of that. The Old Sindarin is Lin Mbas. It literally means whey bread. And then over time, the Sindarin, it became Limbus, which still means whey bread, journey bread. It's just a little bit of a change, the way it transformed, so to speak, from Old Sindarin to the regular Sindarin. All right, here's another example. In Sindarin, the word for echo is lam. Now, as it changed into Northern Sindarin, it changed a little bit. You can see the word for echo. It changed like the symbol. It's still pronounced lam. And then to mean echoing, like an adjective, it's lamen. And I think I have one more slide. So let me show that one. If you were wondering what happened to butter. So Tolkien stripped away Telpe. He stripped away the butter. So what did he make butter? He had to change it, right? So let's see. Okay, so here's a reference. And this is just evidence of how serious this is actually later on. All of these are Neo-Quenya, Neo-Sindarin, which means that they were post-Tolkien. Now, whether they were derived from some of his material, I'm not exactly sure. Some of it may have been made by the community, the Tengwar community, and put together. But you can see here all the different variations in Quenya, Noldorin, Sindarin for the word butter. It looks like it's going to land somewhere. You can see, I can't really point, sort of here. There's I highlighted ET. That's the early Telerin. You see the Telpe, right? That's the only time, well, and one above that is sort of similar. You'll see those as butter. But the rest of them are sort of like this Mandia. 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 It's changed to that for butter. And I don't know if that was ever, I'd have to look into it more, if that was ever referenced from Tolkien's material, or if that was referenced solely as a new creation by the Tengwar and Elvish writing communities. So I'm going to look into that further. But I thought you guys would enjoy that. So it's a little bit different of an approach, because as you're studying these words and as you're studying their meanings and their cognates, what they derive from, it's really important to take into account when Tolkien made it, when he made it in his lifetime, what time period that was in. That's an excellent point. Dorloman, yes, the land of echoes. I believe that's right. That sounds correct. Very good point, Kel. Thank you for pointing that out. So this is something that I would like to teach you guys how to do more of. And I think that it's something that will benefit you if you're ever interested in learning sort of the origin of a lot of these words. And if you're wanting to learn Elvish, then this will come into play when you're starting to learn the certain words and which one goes together and stuff. All right. So that's really the slides that I had. And I thought you guys would like that. Yep. So you checked it out. And did you get a confirmation on that? That's what it meant? Dorlaman. Awesome. Cool. So let me go back to that slide, because we got to look at this butter tree one more time. There we go. I think that should have just been the way it was. He should have never changed it to silver. I'm convinced. All right. So, hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a little bit. Let me pull up the tree again. Not the butter tree. Not the butter tree. The Elvish language tree. Okay. I like having fun, guys. Hope you do too. So we went through a little bit of ancient Telerin. Let me bring up my show notes. I meant to point out a few things. So one thing about the ancient Telerin, the Teleri, they traveled more slowly than all the other elves. And that's in fact what Teleri means. It means hindmost. So that's one interesting fact about that. One thing that I wanted to point out, let's see, I had it in my notes about early Telerin, the word telpe meant butter, and it was later discarded and changed to silver. So we took that away tonight, and nobody will ever forget that, I promise. Old Sindarin. So Sindarin is one of the most changed more than any of the other Eldering languages. Um, and it was mostly due to, I took a note here from when I was studying, it says, with the death and disruption of the wars against Morgoth, the language of these elves underwent exceptional rapid change over the next few centuries. So, unfortunately, it was not a good reason why all this changed so much and fast. As war often does, it tears people apart, hurts, and does bad things. And, as far as languages, I'm sure they got separated. They got in different places, and that's why a lot of these language branches exist. Neo-Sindarin is one of the most widely used forms of Elvish language, and that is most of where the Tolkien fan base has come together, and the Elvish writers have come together, and we've sort of made a database of all the information that has been garnered from Tolkien's work, and then we can derive new meanings, make new entries into our database, and come together and say these meanings should exist because these old words said this, these old words meant that. So we can put these things together and make new words, new meanings. And if everybody's sort of in agreement, then we move forward and kind of use that in the community. So, all right, let me move my notes because it's blocking my chat. One more thing, I made a note. North Sindarin is a dialect of Sindarin spoken in northern Beleriand, where it was adopted by many of the Noldor, most notably the followers of the Sons of Feanor. Now, spoiler alert, it's not too much of a spoiler if you know about some of the lore. This dialect did not survive the fall of Beleriand, sadly. But, obviously some of the words did, such as Laman. So, yep, and I appreciate you guys being here. Yep, I'm reading through the notes here of the chat. Yes, displacement happens, unfortunately, due to a war. And so, it's a sad story. We do get some variations on the languages, though, as a result. So, we can understand more about the differences in their cultures and things like that. And thankfully, Tolkien really took it upon himself to make sure that we could understand these things, and that it's a reminder of how much of a lover of languages he was. He really was that first. He built these languages, and they were literally his children, and then he built the world of Middle-earth around them, because it was sort of like the next progression, right? The kind of Sindarin is spoken in the movies is mostly Neo-Sindarin. Some of it is regular, but most of it is Neo. And actually some of that over time has changed so much, what was in the movies, that people don't even use it anymore. Like if you was to take a lot of what's said in the movies and then came to a community of people that spoke Elvish now, and started speaking those sentences and things like that, you would be greeted warmly and welcomed, obviously, but somebody might mention in passing and say, hey, here's some new updated ways to say those things. And not because it's just the community that made it up. A lot of this stuff actually came out, the movies are like over 20 years old. So in that time period, new material has been released by the Tolkien estate and other writings and whatnot that we have seen. So a lot of this stuff gets updated over time. Or things that they made for the movies, maybe they made it upon themselves, but then later we actually, as a community, we have seen some things that would actually be more appropriate based off of attestations from Tolkien's writings. So you always want to go with what's more accurate and appropriate, but if you guys are familiar with some of it in the movies, that's also great, and it's fun to recite with them. Yeah. That's a good question. The question is, do people update Quenya too, or is it mostly left alone? I would have to ask my Quenya friends. I don't really work with Quenya that much. I'm sure that if any new material was released in India in any of the writings and releases that would update, then absolutely that has been updated. Yes, everything that comes out at all is scrutinized and compared and weighed against what's currently in existence. We literally have databases where we can look at this stuff, and if anything changes, there are people that monitor these things and update them regularly. So that's a good question. So I don't know for sure. I would have to ask. I haven't been a part of that. The question is it like an official peer review board, or is it just organically agreed upon in the community? The community that I'm a part of is on a Discord, but it's also on Reddit. Let me pull that up. I would have to sort of refer to the owners of that. It's Vinay Lambengolmore. Yeah, we call it VL for short. Thankfully, it's a lot easier to type for sure, VL. But I'd have to check with them. I think there is sort of a formality that is done. I don't exactly know like if there's a submission for these things, but the community and writers that really are involved in this, some of the biggest ones that are involved in these types of decisions are definitely involved in this community. So I don't know. I'd have to ask that. I haven't been involved in adding something myself personally, so I couldn't really answer that. But thanks for the question, though. That's a good one. I do know that what I've seen before, where some people, there's like a section for neologisms, which is a fan-made creation. Let me look that up. Let's see. Go to the channel. Where are the neologisms? Oh, there it is. So there's a section in the channel on this Discord. It says for sharing our Quenya and Sindarin neologisms. So I don't know if that's just this community that makes it, but I can tell you that I don't really know of any other communities out there that really shine brighter than this one. So, and I know they check everything that's released by the estate. So it's about as close as you can get to being up to date. So if there is another community somewhere else, I don't know of it. This one is pretty solid. So I'll put the link for the Discord invite and where they're located. Yeah, I'll post the link. Let me go ahead and get that invite. I'll post it in the description on this video if you're watching this later on YouTube. But if you want to go join now, let me get that link. Yep. I also, since I'm spreading the love for somebody else's Discord channel, which I would highly recommend you join because they are very amazing when it comes to all things language. But I also have a Discord channel. If you want to come visit our Discord, we're more of a community where we just hang out and enjoy each other's company. We talk about all things Lord of the Rings. The Discord name is Valinor. And if you go to my link tree on my website, tengwarteacher.com, you will be able to get straight into my Discord. So feel free to come join. I will go ahead and post this. This is an invite link if it'll let me post it. It looks like it did. That goes straight into the VL Discord. And hopefully you get to learn some things there. If nothing else, just lurk, be polite. And there's tons of channels and resources of information if you're really wanting to seek out how to learn Elvish language. Lots of people in there that I respect, and I definitely would highly recommend joining just to hang out and watch other people speak in Elvish and talk, and it's very eye-opening. And if you have a question, there's a section for submissions. There's a section for questions, requests. You'll see me in there. I'm asking questions often, just because, I mean, that's what a community's for, right? You know, we help each other out. And those who have gone before me, I stand on their shoulders a lot of times. And it's much appreciated. But anyway, so let me close this out. And if you guys have any requests that you brought with you, I would love to do that at this time. Does anybody have a request for this evening? I have my iPad ready. Let's see. Thank you for the follows too, by the way. I just noticed over the past couple of days, several of you have followed me, and I appreciate that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do. So if you didn't see my post about Sauron, I can't help it. That's just what that's what it was in Quenya. So let me write that out real quick. Because if you didn't see that, I think it's worth noting. So I'll write it in English first, Sauron. Now, in Quenya, a lot of the names that later on became an S, they originally were with TH, right? Or like a thorn symbol, right? So in Quenya, the word, this is how you would spell Sauron. And I did a TikTok on this, and a lot of people got a kick out of it. So, but anyway, you do a TH like this. The AU, excuse me, is a circle like that with an A on top. Again, this is Quenya, so don't be freaking out and be like, what is he writing? Then there's an R, like this. Then we'll place our O vowel on top, and then finish out with an N. Now, the way you pronounce this is Thauron. Thou, like TH, Thauron. I'm not joking. That's how it would be pronounced in Quenya. So I did a little funny TikTok about that, and a lot of people liked that. So, all right, yeah, let's do. Oh my gosh, you want all that? And are you just wanting Dorloman, the land of echoes? You want me to write all that? Oh, okay. I don't mind. It's just it will take a while. Let me look up Dorloman and see if there's any reference for that, because I don't exactly know what time period that was from. Yeah, it would be. There it is. I found it. It says it's Noldoran. Dorloman. Yep. Land or dwelling place of echoing. And like we pointed out, the Laman. Yeah, first age. And because of that, it's going to be written in Sindarin, but the mode of Beleriand. We were talking about Beleriand earlier. So this is before it fell, obviously. Alright, so let's do the D like this. Let me do that again. My bow on my D didn't do quite right. D. And then we'll do, this is so crazy, the mode of Beleriand. Like, Tolkien, why did you do this? The U looking shape like this is an O. So can you imagine what the U is? It's an O. I know. I think he just was like, let me see how I can mess with people's mind, right? Anyway. Alright, so here's the R. So Roman like this. And then we're going to do, for Loman, let me write it in English because if you don't see that, you won't understand what I'm doing. Because it's spelled like this. D-O-R. I'm not going to do the hyphen. That's not necessary, but this is what I wanted to point out, is there is an accent on the O, like this. Okay. So now, let me keep going. So we're going to do our L, and it looks like this. And then we'll do an O like this with an accent on it like that. Then we'll do an M in the mode of Telerin and Sindarin. It's actually just like this. And then we'll do an E. It looks sort of like a baby lambda symbol or something. And then N, it looks just like the M, only it doesn't close at the bottom. So it's like that. Alright, so this is Dor Laman. You're welcome, Kel. Thank you for asking that, requesting it. It's interesting. It says that in I think that's Gondorian. Let's see. It actually means land of shadow. That's interesting. And that's because in Gondorian, Laman means shadowy, shady, gloomy. It's an interesting take. Like for instance, in Noldoran, arid Laman means mountains of shadow. Can I please show you how to write ivy? Sure. Sure. So, hey, welcome. Nice to see you this evening. So let me write ivy. So now you can do ivy a couple of ways. So you're asking it with a Y. You would actually do it. It's fine. You can do it orthographically and it still works. So you would start off with the V like this with an I on top and then do a short carrier and you can just end it with a Y. Now there's a couple of options you have. This is a 1. It's an orthographic mode. If you wanted to do it another way that Tolkien would have done it, you can actually extend that stem like that and put the Y on it. That sort of emphasizes the E at the end. Let me draw that again. So you would just extend the stem and do it that way. That's also acceptable. I would do one of those two. Phonetically, it would be like, I'll show you, but I wouldn't do it this way. Unless you write phonetically, that's fine. You could do it with an I like that. Like I said, I wouldn't recommend that because this Y is perfectly normal and attested, and you don't even have to write it phonetically to do that. You could just leave it. So I would recommend one of these two. Anybody else have a request? If you just joined, we did a little bit of a class earlier on in the session talking about ancient Telerin, and I would urge you to go back and watch it because we had a lot of fun. There were some funny moments in it, and we did it from the perspective of Tolkien during his lifetime, the ages and things that he worked on during different time periods in his life, and we looked at some words and how they progressed over time during his lifetime. So that was a little bit of a different perspective this week of how we did some things, and we went through ancient Telerin, Telerin, middle Telerin, early Telerin, old Sindarin, Sindarin, and northern Sindarin. So a lot of changes, but it was a lot of fun. So let me check the chat here. I see it moving. Yep, sure. I understand a lot of the stuff you're going to see online. It's helpful, but it can also be confusing. And unless you're acquainted with doing this often, then it really just, it's very hard to follow because there's so many different options that you don't exactly know what to think. I've been there before. I can understand. Yes, we're going to do Carmen. Okay. So one thing about you're mentioning the pronunciation, and in all Elvish writing, you're supposed to roll the R like a hard R. There is no difference in spelling. There's an understanding based off of the appendices in Return of the King that Tolkien explains this. So it's just that way anyway. There's no difference in the Tengwar. So let me write that real quick. So even if you see it, like let's say if I see it from an American standpoint and I'm reading it, I would say Carmen. But then if you were Spanish and reading it, like you're pointing out, and you read it, you would read it as you would in your native tongue. But it also points out in, like I said, the appendices that you're supposed to roll all the R's. I'm not very good at that, so I really don't try. And I mean, I try, but I'm saying I fail a lot. So I don't try too hard because I wind up looking crazy when I try. So I do the best I can. But anyway, so we have the Tengwar that makes the K sound, and now next I'm drawing the Ore here. And the reason why we're going to choose that is because it's about to go into a consonant. So on top of the Ore, we place the vowel A. It looks like my signal is degrading. Hopefully you guys are seeing this. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Next we'll do the consonant for M. And then we'll do the consonant for N with an E on top. Yeah, I agree. The Rings of Power, anytime that they do the rolling of the R's, that's actually, that's not really their take on that. That is Tolkien instruction for all names, Elvish talking. You're supposed to always roll the R. So, okay, good. I'm glad you can. I don't know why it was on my end. I guess it was doing something weird, but I'm good. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it got fuzzy. But it looks like it cleared up on my end, so hopefully you can too. All right, so let's see. You're welcome very much, Carmen. Hopefully that helps and clarifies a little bit that it doesn't matter where you're from in the world. If you read this, it's the same as far as the writing. There's like no extra accent or anything I have to add for it to be the same. I have other people in this house streaming and possibly even playing some games, so that could be eating into my bandwidth, and that's okay. But hopefully it's sending through. And it's recording, so if there is something weird going on, it may actually record better, and when I upload it to YouTube, if there's something missing, maybe you can see it later on in the replay. All right. Does anybody have one? Yes. Can I ask for a name in English? Yes, absolutely. Feel free to drop your request in the chat. While we're getting that request made, let's talk a little bit about my project that I'm working on. I've been spending a good bit of time making the new Tengwar teacher videos, and I am just right at the edge of completing 2 lessons. This time I have taken the suggestion of people in the community, some of you in the chat room, and I actually today I worked on adding in the vocalizations, the parts of the Tengwar, how they connect, and writing out how they look and write on the page individually. I'm going through all of this. Started doing an introduction lesson to Tengwar. I did one on vowels. So everything's coming together. My template is sort of getting built out. So hopefully over the next week, I should be able to try to release the first 2 videos. And I want to release those 2 together because one of them it's actually really long, but it's an introduction to Tengwar, and it goes through all of the Tengwar and teaches you how to write them. The focus is not on the vocalization in the first video. It's built on teaching you how to write and the shaping of the stem, the bow, and the theta above and below. That rhymed. I'm proud of myself. So, but yeah, I think you guys will really enjoy it. Like the first video is like over 20 minutes long. The second video is a lot shorter, but all the time when I make a vowel video, it's always shorter. I was able to extend it out a little bit longer because of the vocalization parts. So the first video is really focusing in on shaping the Tengwar, learning how to write it, showing you like the lines and where they fit on a line. And then the second video is vowels and starting to talk about pronunciation and like the chart that Tolkien built and all the columns and the rows and what type of linguistic style was expected and like the parts of the mouth that's used to speak it, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. So this teaching that I am doing is going to be an English mode teaching at first, because that's what I primarily teach. But after I do this video series, I may do some follow-up videos to teach the components of Sindarin and Quenya, which I've already done that on TikTok, and I've got a pretty good couple of videos that teach you, like, if you want to learn like the characters for that, I've got that on TikTok. You may not be on TikTok, but I've got I'm probably going to do some long form videos of that, and if I can, I may try to start delving into more long form videos on Sindarin and Quenya, because I think that's needed. But I really need to get more acquainted with those languages before I attempt such a massive undertaking. But we'll see how things get to moving. So let's do these requests. Looked like it was Katya. It was Katia. Katya. So you want to see that in English mode and Quenya mode. Alright. So let me write this up here so everybody can see. I know you guys can see the chat, but sometimes the chat may not always be visible to my other viewers that watch this in a replay, so I want to make sure I show it. So the request was we're going to do it in English mode first, so let's do that. So we'll do our K like this. Then we'll do the T with an A on top. Then we'll do a short carrier with an I. And then we'll do another short carrier with an A. So that's Katya. Alright, so that's the English. And you guys can still see good. Alright, so now let's do this. All you would have to do is just reverse the order. So you would do the K like this. And instead of putting it on the next character over, you would put it above the K. And then do a T like this, with an I on top of it, short carrier, and an A. Let me straighten that up for you. Hang on one second. Can do better than that. There. So this top one is in English mode. The bottom would be written in Quenya mode. You're welcome. Hopefully that made sense how I explained it. Excuse me. So here, what you're looking at is the K, then the A, the T, the I, and an A. So it goes up here, over, and up. And up here in the English mode, it would actually go sort of starting on this one would be over, up, and from the top going down, then over, down, and then down. And because of the way the I and the A work, there's not a digraph for those. We would actually put them on their own telco, which are these guys right here. These are called telco. It's a short carrier. The long carrier like this is called an ARA. I really enjoy using this software. It makes my writing so much easier. All right. We are right over an hour, and I would love to take some more requests if you got one. Writing in English mode. So I've got a couple of suggestions. All right, we'll do Ingrid. The question is, do I know of any online sources to practice English mode? So, first of all, I have a Discord, and let me get the Discord. I could have done that earlier. Let me get my Discord link, and I'll put that in the chat. So this is my Discord. It's called Valinor. If you want to practice, feel free to come in there. We have several people that you can bounce ideas off of if you want to practice. We'd love to do it. We're in there every day, all day. That's one place. I have a TikTok. It's got a playlist with 400 names in it. So if you're interested and you want to start looking at those, that's a great place to start. You can just go through and look at how I'm writing and how I'm building all the stuff together. Another really good resource is on Reddit. There's a Tengwar community there. There's tekendil.com. And let me spell that. tekendil.com. Just make sure you choose from the drop down the English mode there. You can start just type in some basic words and see how it's spelled. Now I will give a warning. There are some caveats that if you don't understand Tengwar, it's not always accurate. It's not 100%, as you would imagine. Not all software has all of the answers built into it. Unless you really understand Tengwar and how it works, just beware. But feel free to go check it out there. If you want to come in my Discord, feel free to bounce it off and say, hey, does this look right? I'd be happy to tell you yes or no and why. And if it's wrong, I can shoot you back the correct way and explain why that's right. So be happy to help you. That's what I do. That is what we do in the community that I'm a part of. We love helping people, and that's why I like to teach. My number one goal is that other people can do this and know how to do it. I don't want to hold it all to myself. That's why I started this. Anyway, so which mode? Let me see. Yeah, there's an awesome writer, a part of the VL community, and I have written with this person several times and had conversations. It's Fiona Jawlings. There is a workbook that was released by Fiona, and it is to write English, Tengwar in English, and I recommend that. Yep, I would recommend that. That's an excellent resource, good reference guide. I'm sort of doing something similar to what she did, except mine's going to be more in like visual video format. But yeah, she also has a Neo-Sindarin book that's good. The reason why I say it's good is because, in her own words, she recommends that. I think she has an updated version online, and so if you come to the VL Discord, there's information linking to that information. That's mostly for Neo-Sindarin. So, but yeah, for the English, I definitely recommend that workbook. It's good. Let's see, there's a question from Carmen. Let me see what that was. So the question is, which mode is the most common amongst those studying Tolkien languages, and why do you think that is? I don't really think that there is one. Okay. Wow. See, the problem is being a part of the community that I've been around, I see so many requests in all three modes of the main modes. Like there's the common mode, like English mode or whatever. So it can be, let me answer this in such a way that it's a little bit longer than just here's a simple answer, and apologies about that. But here's my take on it. If you're interested in classical Quenya, lore, writings, poetry, songs, then you're going to be interested in Quenya. If you want to speak and use Elvish to communicate more modern, back and forth, you're going to be looking at Sindarin and Neo-Sindarin. If you want to, say, get a tattoo with a modern English saying or phrase on it, or a movie quote or something, then you're going to be looking at transcription or transliteration from using the English mode. So it really has to do with what your interest is. And because of that and how people are so diverse, I can't really say that there is one that stands out among all those that's more common, because all of them are constantly being requested. Yep. So thanks for joining, and appreciate you dropping by. I'm sorry you have to go, but check out the rest of it on YouTube later on. Yep. I hope that makes sense, but it is not not a straightforward, simple answer. But I hope that makes sense. All right. Let's see. I'm going to be wrapping up here. And as a part of that, first of all, I want to thank everybody that's here and got to hang out with us. If you missed part of the broadcast, be sure to go back and watch it later on my Twitch feed, or go watch it on YouTube after I push it there, because we went through Tolkien's take on ancient Telerin, modern Telerin, or mid Telerin, and early, and then Sindarin, Old Sindarin, North Sindarin. We kind of looked at some examples of that. We had a lot of fun with it. So if you're kind of coming in late, make sure you go back and rewatch the beginning, because that was fun. And mostly we just been hanging out and doing some requests and talking about different mode usages and stuff like that. Want to reemphasize it in case you missed it. I do have a new YouTube video series coming out, hopefully starting in the next week. It's going to be a 14 to 15 part video series. I've almost completed 2 of the lessons, and I'm still working on part of the short story that I'm including, but I've got these videos almost completed so that I could publish them. But I'm still going back through, just making sure I got everything exactly the way I want it before I publish it. So be looking for that in the coming days. If you're not subscribed to me on YouTube, make sure you do that. hit the bell icon, because if you don't want to miss when it gets dropped, because it's going to be some really good videos that I've worked really hard on, and I think you guys will enjoy. Yes, we will never forget Butter Tree. I need to post that. I'll put it on my Instagram, and people be like, what is that? Like, you need to go watch my Wednesday night class, because you need to know Butter Tree. You don't know Butter Tree? Right. So, no problem. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I appreciate it. I love teaching. I love spending time with people, and this is one of my favorite subjects to talk about. So, everybody have a wonderful rest of your week, and I hope to see you soon. So look for me on other live streams. I'm probably going to come out and do some other name writing and stuff like that this week, maybe some gaming. But just take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.